Good morning, coffee moaners.
Morning, everyone.
Nadia's just coming. She's just cleaning stuff off her glasses. I don't know what it is.
No, I'm having a bit of peanut butter. I'm starving.
I don't know what that is on those glasses. It's just a mess. It's peanut butter. It's all sorts of stuff. It's just weird. I tried them on. I couldn't see a thing. Morning, everyone. How are we all? How are you? God, it's been a busy old couple of days. Busy week for the channel. You've got all sorts of new content coming. A really rich How to Stay Married is being recorded today. Couple of fantastic trailers landed last night. Go and check out the Smashing Machine starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and a new film called Weapons, which a lot of people are very excited about. Go and check those out. Here she is. Here she is, just a walking down the street singing, "Ooh, a baby, baby, dum, baby, looks good, looks fine."
Tutu's just looked up from the sofa.
God, look at your cleavage.
Oh my God. In her inimitable way.
It's because we're doing sex in the morning.
Just looked at me like, oh God, she's off again.
Well, more than her. Everyone who has the story.
Just tell them what's happening.
I can't. I'm got mesmerised by your cleavage. So we're going to be talking about is morning sex best? Apparently, there are some strong health reasons for why having sex in the morning might be better than having sex in the evening. What are you doing over there? Like, that's so weird.
I don't want people to hear me chew.
No, good. That's nice. Would you? Are there some practical issues with having sex in the morning? I think I can think of a few. We're also going to be talking about what makes a good dad. Really, really wholesome clip that Nadia found. What makes a good dad, but also what makes a good role model. And actually watching the clip really triggered some very fond memories that I had from when I was younger. And we're going to be talking about quite a serious thing. Why our daughters, or English daughters, are the most miserable in Europe. Why are they so miserable? And I know that many people are going to sigh and go, "Oh, it's going to be social media." Social media is in everything, but there are some really interesting aspects to this. Shocking, surprising, quite disturbing details around some girls' kind of testimonies as to what has perhaps made them or makes them miserable. We've got a few other silly bits and bobs to talk about. I just want to start by talking about just briefly, because we were going to talk about it a bit more significantly. You might need to come a bit closer, babe. Come a bit. Is there a song called "Come a Bit Closer"? Mm-hmm.
It's because it's peanut butter.
That's like three-dimensional eating. It's quite something, isn't it? It's like a full Dolby stereo.
Come closer and listen. The beat of my heart keeps on missing.
What do we think of these absolute Muppets who are in court for chopping down the sycamore tree? What a pair of absolute Muppets.
It is. I didn't realise people had been caught.
Yes, they've been. Well, not only have they been caught, they'd filmed it, they'd videoed it, they texted each other saying how brilliant they are. Here's one of them holding two owls. Doesn't look like the brightest spark in the plug, brightest tool in the box. But what a pair of numpties. They're in court and they're being charged. But apparently they're blaming each other, aren't they? Each of saying he did it.
Yeah.
I didn't do it.
But it was all about getting a piece of wood, wasn't it?
As a trophy.
As a trophy. A bit like hunters that go out, and that's what I likened it to. You know, and the hunters would go out and get a lion's head.
Yes.
And
a trophy head.
But of a tree.
The thing I find really shocking about it is there's nothing on earth that you can do to rectify 500, 600 years of growth. No amount of horticulturalists coming along saying, "Look, there's a little bit of shrubbery." It's vandalism on so many levels. It's not just vandalism.
Do we know if they were drunk?
No, we don't.
Was it a bet that went crazy?
I think they just thought, let's do something. Even when people on Facebook were saying whoever's done this are morons, and they've got no sort of no bravery, and they're weak. Apparently, the two guys messaged each other. Do they have any idea how strong we are to have done what we've done?
I think there might be something going on with them.
They look like characters from The Hills Have Eyes, which is a great film, Lee Darren. I was reminded of that film watching The Settlers as well.
I cannot watch that film again.
It's the whole hillbilly sentiment of yes, knobheads, says Welsh Wend. I love your name.
I wonder if they're not well, and I do genuinely mean that.
Well, let's have a look at one of them again. Let's just see.
It's so. Doesn't
look the full ticket, does he?
Mark.
Well, he doesn't.
Don't,
I mean,
Mark.
no, but
Mark, don't be unkind.
no. I mean, look, they've destroyed possibly one of our
Mark.
most ancient pieces of woodland. I think the tree would like to have a bit of kickback, and the tree would look at him and go, "He doesn't look the full ticket."
And those owls might have liked to have sat on that tree.
Maybe he got those owls out of the tree. Mark is correct, says Tawny. Oh God, The Hills Have Eyes is ultra disturbing, especially when you think that it's especially when you realise that The Hills Have Eyes is a very tame version of what's going on in the West Bank. Yeah. Ooh,
Yeah, anyway, so
political.
that's the tree. That's the tree.
Mark said what we were all thinking.
I think they've got struggles. I think they've got struggles. What about the other guy? Who's the
Got a
other
good
guy?
step ladder in the background. Well, the only image we've got of the other guy is this.
Well, which one is the one with the owls?
Well, that's good. They're both scrubbed up, aren't they? I think the one on the right is the owl owner. The other one's thought a waistcoat might save the day.
It's like an Emmerdale Farm storyline, isn't it? Right, so let's move on. Mark,
Sorry.
stop it.
For another funny, we're going to be talking about. I actually do like your story about the shoes. I think we should do that as a visual thing at the end.
Mhm.
They're shocking.
Well, maybe not. I want you to guess which one I'm going to buy.
As you get older.
Maybe not.
Well,
Maybe not. Maybe not.
well, maybe. Have you noticed lots of people have very odd things? My granddad would used to take as many statins or whatever he took for his heart. He'd take a pill and he'd do this.
Oh, that's what Kiki does when she takes her vitamins. Do you know what? I actually Googled it, and it's the worst thing you can do if your pills get stuck in your throat.
He was doing it for
Because
drama. It
what
was
you
theatre.
do is you close your throat, and actually what you're supposed to do is put your head forward.
Well, I once said to him, I said, Dad, why do you throw your head back so violently? He
It's
said,
to
just to
show
make
off.
sure it goes down.
Yeah.
He did it once when he was
Like a
out.
seal.
He did it so hard his glasses flew off the top of his
And
head.
also you're going to crick your neck.
Yeah. Creatorholic has just gifted 10 family memberships.
Oh, that's
That's
so
so
kind.
kind
Thank
and
you,
so generous,
Creatorholic.
Creatorholic.
Thank you.
We've got a whole bunch of cards about to get out today. Looking forward to it. Yeah. Oh, I've really hurt my neck impersonating my granddad.
Right.
Okay. Take it away, baby.
Let's start with our daughters miserable,
Yes.
and then we'll move through.
I haven't got any supporting material.
First of
for
all,
this.
does this? Have you not got the article?
I've got the article.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First of all, does this surprise anyone? How does this leave you feeling? This is English teenagers,
So it's the
especially
organisation.
girls. This is a recent report from the Organisation for Economic Cooperation and Development, blah, 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 has found that a generation of girls are experiencing declining health and well-being, with girls in England the sickest and unhappiest in Europe. So awful. The boys are faring better, 5th in 44 countries.
Right.
I wonder who the top one. I wanted to know who the top one was in with boys. In
Yeah.
what country?
Well, let me give you. I know a lot of you guys love the stats on these things. So the findings make for sobering reading. 2/3 of 11-year-old girls report having multiple health issues, such as nervousness or difficulty getting to sleep at least twice a week. This rises to 77% by the age of 17. The average age of onset for many mental disorders is around the
And
age
that's
of 14.
anxiety, depression, and of course we know all those things then can make our bodies very unwell as well. You know,
Yeah.
stress is, as we know, really bad for our health.
Okay.
This is young. I mean, this is 11 from 11.
Oh, happy birthday. It's Creatoholic's birthday. She's just bought everyone.
Oh,
happy
do you happy
Yeah.
birthday. Wish Creatorholic a lovely birthday, everybody.
Can I be shock horror? Because I know really this is a leading question. At this point in the story, I'm not surprised. I think I'm not surprised that sadly our daughters in this country are the unhappiest. There are so many pressures and stresses. And I think the fear is that we're all going to think, yes, social media is obviously part of it. I think this article in the piece research goes into the fact that social media is part of it. But there were quite a few other sort of parts to this that were sort of quite shocking, weren't they? Or surprising.
Oh, also, I just want to say a hello to Andrea Harrington. I haven't seen your name before, and Andrea has just deregistered. It makes me emotional seeing that.
Oh, God. We did that. Homeschooled our kids.
And I can still remember now the day we deregistered our daughter.
Oh, God, it was an emotional day.
He was the same, suffering from anxiety. and just what
Thank
a
you,
relief
Julie,
it was.
Julie.
So Andrea, underneath here, there is an email address, Michelle. If you send her your details, we're going to send you our book that we did years ago, quite a few years ago now, about homeschooling.
Yes.
So because there's a lot of things in there that we wish we'd known, but yeah, oh, that's really brave. It's not easy. It's not, people go, oh well, it's not an easy choice. No. And there are many bumps in the road. And we were told so many different things about the way our children would turn out. And they are both now absolutely flourishing. So hold firm.
No one knows more than us that it's not that there'll have been many, many difficult steps and points in your journey of getting to the point of deregistering your daughter. We understand that totally. I just want
to look for your community, look for your homeschooling community, because every area has it, and get that support from other parents and that socializing and all of that. But big love.
Yeah.
Right.
Also, Julie the Singing Nutcase has just gifted 5 memberships. Very kind.
Oh, guys, the sun's out.
Yeah, I hope your cramps are better. I know you were struggling with cramps the other day and had to suddenly stand up, I think, and sort them out. No, I know you
only on Coffee Moaning would that conversation be going on.
We know you so well.
You know that we usually use this tagline because it is actually true. So many people say to us, the best morning TV show not on TV. Yeah. Can you imagine?
You don't get Dermot O'Leary. Dermot O'Leary.
How's your cramps?
Dermot O'Leary.
Leave the fly.
No, it's a particularly annoying one.
No, but Mark, oh God, it's huge.
Yeah, it's huge and it keeps coming towards us.
So girls and our miserable girls, and the journalist who was talking about this report was talking to her daughter and a group of their friends. And she said she was so depressed by the fact that none of them were surprised about this fact. And of course, she went into asking them why that was. And there was the usual, what we should expect, what we now know very well. It's the TikTokers all looking amazing, all looking super trim and toned, with perfect boyfriends. That's usually depressing. Then the next one, exercise is made out to be so damn important through TikTok, but they're all in amazing workout gear, not sweating. So even wanting to do the exercise, they then worry about how they're looking. As we know, lack of exercise is huge, plays a huge part in anxiety and depression. And then dealing with obesity. This is stuff with left over from the pandemic. Now, all of that stuff we've discussed before, but what really piqued my interest, and I have noticed this with our girls, when they say, oh God, I hate men and I hate all men. And each one of them has a lovely, kind boyfriend, which we say, but you've got lovely, kind boyfriends. So this is what particularly piqued my interest, this part of the article, because they said there is a huge problem with trauma coming through TikTok. And she was describing one particular video where a girl had been beaten up by her boyfriend and his friends, right? And she'd been left in a pool of blood, all of which she videoed and shared. Yeah. And then the whole week in hospital, detailing the whole thing. And then there's an awful lot of, no, just let me finish it. Then there's all this content about being controlled by boyfriends, girls detailing their whole journey about how it all happened, how at first it was love, and then how to find all the red flags. This is too much.
So hang on.
This is too much for a young brain.
So can I just clarify it? Because I read the piece too, and I wanted to ask you, was I reading it correctly? It seemed to me like not that girls are pursuing. Well, it felt like it was saying that there is an appetite to find toxic behavior in men, be victims of that behavior, to turn it into content.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I've never heard find.
Because I want to share something with you that I find really disturbing.
I don't think it's about finding a toxic man. I think that these things happen and then it comes out. I don't think there's.
But if there's a trend, usually
no, I don't think there's a trend to look for toxic men. Like there is a trend to look for damaged girls.
No, but the article very much says there's a trend for putting up content which is chronicling your journey to recovery from abuse.
Yeah.
That which suggests at some point there will be wires will get crossed in that. I just want to share something that really shocked me yesterday, and I asked the girls about it in the car, and it kind of feeds into this. So all of the kids were leaving the school local. It's a boys' school, local boys' school, and there were two girls who crossed the road. I had to let them cross the road on the zebra crossing. They were kind of giggling and looking nervous and on edge. And all the boys, hundreds of boys, you know what it's like when school's out, hundreds of boys, all in their uniforms, going to the bus stop. And these two girls were wearing crop tops and those really short shorts, hot pants.
Shorts.
Yeah.
Hot pants.
Well, whatever they call it.
You're in the 70s.
No. So the parent in me was really concerned because they crossed the road and they stood at the bus stop and they were kind of giggling at each other going, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? Like that. And as all the boys were coming out, more and more boys were just coming out and pointing and looking. Now, these girls, something in it looked like they decided to put themselves weirdly in a vulnerable position. And there was something weird going on. It was so.
What did the girls say?
The girls were shocked. They were just like, fucking hell, that sounds so weird. But
they didn't see it. You were talking to them.
No. I was telling them about it. And I said, immediately my instincts went up as a parent. I was thinking, fucking hell, what's going on? Those girls look vulnerable.
Yeah.
But because we were all queuing and so many of the kids were coming out in the traffic jam and everything, I was kind of looking across the road, looking at all the boys coming out. They were getting attention. They were kind of giggling, but it was like they dared each other to do it.
Well, you know what they're doing, because this is totally normal behavior. You start to feel your power as a girl, but you don't really understand it. Right. But you know that attention feels good in one way, but then really scary. So you are playing a kind of dangerous game. I mean, I always go back to like when you're first wolf whistled at and you don't like it. You don't like it. Most people, when they are first, it feels scary. It feels aggressive. You're not quite sure what's expected of you. Then you might talk about that to other people. Go, God, sort yourself out. It means it means it's a compliment. So then you kind of get into this thing of like, oh, a wolf whistle is a compliment. And then it's like, oh God, did I get a wolf whistle? It's so complex what's going on for the boys and for the girls.
Well, the boys were thrown. I could see the boys were as thrown as the girls were thrown themselves.
Because look, it's human nature that you get to a certain age and, our biology hasn't changed. You start to get sexual around, you get sexual feelings, and then you don't really understand them, but you understand attention.
They look so vulnerable.
Yeah, that would have been.
They looked so vulnerable. But the weird thing to describe was they clearly had made the choices themselves. They weren't vulnerable, but like they had made choices about what they were, and they had positioned themselves in a place. It was like they were attracting attention, but I thought, oh my God, this is spectacularly backfire.
I think it's a good point, because I think that, like, if I'm trying to think now to when maybe me and Dean and our group of friends from around here would go out, we looked like the back ends of buses when we went out, but we'd done ourselves up. When you look back on the photos,
the back end of buses are quite nice.
Just like hair out here, some terrible shirt, pearls on top of it, like Princess Anne. But you would dress up to get a bit of attention. But the problem is what they're seeing on TikTok and things like this is dressing up is like a whole different thing, and they are not mature enough to handle that attention.
I suppose you could say, I mean, again, we don't know if this is a trend that's become a sort of targeted trend, but if say chronicling your recovery, I mean, I'm laughing because I can't believe it. If chronicling your recovery from bad behavior from a boyfriend has the potentiality of becoming content, the weird way that social media is so fucked up, it turns it into a sort of badge of honor.
Well, one thing that I do know that the girls have told me in the past was that this whole trend for looking for girls that are psychos, girls that are fucked up. And, I mean, I'm so glad our kids talk to us, because right at the beginning of that, I had this, and I was like, and I never overreacted. Oh, so why do you think that might be? This is when they were young. Why do you think boys want girls that are looking for girls that are psychos, that are maniacs, and then eventually they will come to it themselves if you give them enough space to say it, and they will come to, with your bit of nudging and stuff, well, because then they can control you. Then they can say, oh, she's a nutcase. And one thing we've always said to our girls, if you are with someone, you're newly with someone, and they start saying, oh, my ex, she was a psycho, she was a nutter, the biggest red flag on the planet.
Well,
in
we
fact,
always
don't
gasp.
have another date with them, because if that's in the first couple of, and you know what, one of our girls, I'm always careful not to say their names because I don't want anything to, but one of our girls in the early days of dating and thinking about somebody, right? And again, thank God my girls talk to me, thank God. We were laughing the other day, me and
I'm going to
her
read some of your
sister,
comments out in a moment.
saying it felt like that journey felt like we were on a boat like this on top of the most massive
What journey?
waves. The journey with this boy, the first boy she was talking to. And it was like, he didn't know anything about this. And it was like, at any point, this boat could just tip and she could go flying out. If she goes out with this guy, So we were like edging, and she was telling us things like, in the first couple of days, he'd said about this ex being a psycho. He'd said about his dad being a maniac. He said, and because we've had those conversations before, it was already planted. Even though this guy was really cute, popular, I could see that she had something going on in her head that was like, this doesn't quite feel right. But it took her amount of time to get there. And it was like, that goes in big time. They start to spill nastiness about somebody else. That's going to be how they're going to talk about you at some point. And I think that's the conversations that should be going on with parents or with people that love them, not by other young teens showing bloody faces. Look, he was wonderful. This is where it turned up. Because how can they trust anybody? How can they open up to anybody? How can they ever think that there's nice guys out there, like this girl says in this this journalist's daughter or friend said, it just makes us hate all men. It makes us scared of all of them because they've quite often seen the journey of the perfect boyfriend at the beginning.
I mean, I do want to sort of stress as well. I mean, what was interesting going back to this moment the other day was that I saw as many of the boys were as shocked by what they saw to begin with. And what was interesting was seeing the moment of shock. So a lot of people have responded to this idea. I think a lot of the younger generation are constantly seeking validation, whether that's from friends or the gender they're attracted to, or even just random strangers online.
When I think back,
Sandy D, to what I used to put up with when I was younger, wolf whistles, people grabbing your bum actually makes me feel a bit sick now, but it was just seen as normal.
It wasn't it, Sarah? And you were almost vilified for not finding it a compliment. I'll tell you this now. There's still women that I know and I work with that will still get pissed off if I say wolf whistling can feel very aggressive to some. Oh, come on, it's a compliment. What's the matter with you? Don't be miserable. And I just want to get them and shake them and go, men have told you that through all your life. It's not you that thinks you're being miserable.
Stuart G, as a gay man, I can remember walking into a gay pub at around 18 and getting ogled. It was terrifying. Some men are animals. I'm pleased you said that. I think one of the problems, and I know a lot of gay men would say exactly this, the problem is men. It doesn't matter often if they're gay or if they're straight. It just does not matter. There is a really sort of fucked up predatory aspect to men and simplistic aspect to men, where they kind of, for whatever reasons, cultural, societal, social media, whatever, manosphere, are incapable or have no role model to show them how to put, just put hurdles in place of what they're feeling and what they're doing. But what I saw again that day was a moment where actually no one was in control of being able to have their first response. If you'd seen me looking, you could have easily, out of context, thought I was looking at them. I was looking at them out of shock and out of protection and out of horror of what I thought could evolve and could happen.
But just to stay on the topic of this being part of what makes trauma sharing, whether that's a boyfriend trauma, whether that's violence in the street. I mean, our girls have seen so many things that we've gone through our whole life and have not seen, whether that be terrible beatings up, whether that be torture from other countries where they've seen like torture, when that be beheading
on social media.
Famously, one of our girls was shown that at school on a video years ago. We've spoken about that before, and it's not spoken about enough. We talk about body image, we talk about all of that, but we don't talk about what our daughters are seeing that is traumatic, that is really traumatic. And some of it is too awful for them to share with your. So you might be really struggling with your daughter and not have a clue that this is the kind of content she's seeing. And you know why? because she's worried that if she tells you, you're going to say, get off that TikTok. And the journalist, speaks to that, because she said, as any parent would, why don't you come off TikTok? And it's the identical answer that
weirdly,
every kid gives. If I'm not on TikTok, I'm not socially acceptable.
But then I thought the journalist kind of fell apart at the end, because right at the end of the article, she said, get them off TikTok, which you've just told us why that's not easy.
Terrible article.
Reese Roberts, really good point. Trauma bonding with another individual can also be a dangerous entanglement. I also,
now that is a good point. And girls tend to lean more towards that, I think, than boys. I just think genetically we do that. We do trauma bond. Like, you'll share all the terrible things that have gone on with your boyfriend or with your...
But I think trauma bonding doesn't just happen through awful things that happened. I think the language of therapy, and this is something we've talked about before, I hear and I see and I sense, and I get really, my red flags that I start to see are when you hear lots of young men, young women can do this too, who talk about their trauma from their life as a means to elicit a sort of codependency and tolerance of their behavior. So for example, let me give you a sort of example. You come from a broken home, you come from a home where your dad, you share in the fact that your dad's horrible. And this is somehow not a justification, but an explanation as to why, say, this boy loses their temper a lot with your daughter and you don't like that. So trauma bonding and the use of trauma in relationships is being harnessed in different ways to control things. I think there's a currency now with mental health conditions, with trauma. I mean, it's not to say that this trauma hasn't been gone through.
And that's massive on TikTok.
It's not to say this trauma hasn't been gone through. I mean, a lot of people say the same thing about people who talk about mental health. It's like turning what you're going through into a commodity that you can then use to kind of build a business or do whatever. But, it's the same in relationships. So there's trauma bonding where you are pulled together over a shared trauma, but there's also the ability to use your own trauma to control people in relationships. And I think that's something that youngsters are very, very aware of now.
I just wanted to read this because, Jackie, I find these discussions about boys and men so difficult. All of my boys are good, hardworking, loving, caring, fantastic fathers. And Jackie, absolutely. And what we say to our girls is there are way more good men than bad men. But what happens is when you're on TikTok and it's magnified, so you've got the worst of humanity, like it was non-stop scrolling. So, like we say, you've got an amazing dad, like all the men in the family, you see are good men. All your friends, they've got great friends that are good men. And that is our point. Is that what social media does when they take these trauma events, that isn't the norm. It's not the norm for a boyfriend to beat you up and then all his friends to beat you up. That's out of the norm. But it becomes normalized to daughters who then might not trust a good man like your son, because that's what they're saying. They're saying we don't know who to trust. Well, the thing is, what we have to say to our daughters is, listen, this is, as Mark says, a trend, if you like. This is getting people attention. And of course, it's good to raise awareness about red flags and all of that. But what you've got here is magnification of something. And there are good men, like Jackie Felina's, good men, like most of the men I know, or the men here that engage in the conversation, but they're getting an unreal picture given to them. And that causes more and more distrust and makes it less likely for your sons who are good men to find a woman that's going to trust them and be vulnerable. I find it fascinating.
It's incredibly, look, I mean, and I totally share it. My mother used to say when she ran a feminist group, she would say to, some of the women who would come to her feminist groups in the 70s, and they'd say, we're not coming in, you have a son. I mean, it was this ardent, it was this radical and revolutionary feminism. And her line on it was, look, I might have a son, but, you're going to, if your daughter grows up and she's straight, I mean, a lot of the groups were gay feminist movements too. She would be like, you'll be hoping for someone or a boy or a male partner for your child that has some education in this. Now, my journey through sexual politics and gender politics and relationships has been as fucked up as everyone else's. But one thing I fundamentally do know is that whatever happened in my childhood, and however that kind of filtered into me, I did gain a kind of early understanding of, feminist politics and the obligation on men to behave more responsibly. It's been helped by having daughters. It's been helped by having a lesbian mother. It's been helped by having so many strong women in my life. But one thing I would say, that as we kind of, and we're very lucky in that girls have met good guys and have good boyfriends, but you can't guarantee things forever with anyone.
No.
And
we've all
one
had
of the
shit
problems is, I
parts.
do think one of the most complicated aspects of watching kids, young girls, have relationships, and we're only talking about young girls because we have daughters, is the ability now for youngsters, girls and boys, to turn trauma, genuine trauma and genuinely bad experiences into an advantage or something that controls a relationship. I mean, this is something I see coming through lots and lots. And this is about, and this is where I get really, I feel really contradictory about it, because on the one hand, it's better to understand therapeutically what we're about and what's going on for all of us more. But at the same time, more and more youngsters are really getting the language and can work in much more insidious ways to control people. So it is complicated. But going back to what I saw the other day, to all those Jackie Villino who have sons, I saw the boys the other day being as much of a victim to what was about to unfold or going on as the girls.
Like, oh, what's this? How am I supposed to be?
Yeah.
Farida, we have spaces where vulnerability helps, but in spaces like TikTok, the vulnerability becomes dangerous and toxic. Yeah, and gives you a skewed idea of what the world is. And Zoe, thank you so much for what you just said. That was very sweet. And the thing is, Zoe, is that you are on a journey of discovery and shift and change. And I was a total fuck up at your age. I wish I'd had me talking to me at your age. You know, I wasn't just always, you know, it's daily, drip, 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 the shifts. Yeah.
Just final comment. I just want to read this out from Lee Doran. It can be hard being a man because of the reputation, but it's up to the good men to try and educate the bad. That's
what we mean. That's why this discussion is for everybody, because everybody is affected by the fact that young girls seem to be getting one idea of what men are like, and I think we need to pay a lot more attention to that.
I just want to share this. Leo, as a gay man, I experienced how predatory men are firsthand. So I can't imagine what women have to go through on a daily basis with the torrent of misogyny and increasing global femicide. Wow.
We really ought to have a conversation. I'd love to have maybe we could do a live with gay men on this. I'd be so fascinated to get more dialogue. Because obviously I have my gay friends, and my God, some of the stories I am told are honestly, I was out with a friend of mine the other day for lunch, and I was so shocked and so upset by what he told me growing up was like for him sexually, and you know the way that he was treated and stuff. It was just and he was so de rigueur about it. It's because that's just like kind of normal. No, it's not.
Okay, for those of you who are feeling a little bit like you've got sons, you've got partners, you know, men who to not feel quite so like we're pushing men into the sin.
No, I don't think we are. I think we're not.
But I think this next clip really speaks to the positives and the possibilities of great men.
And I was in the bath, and this popped up, and I watched it, and I watched it again, and I watched it again, and I watched it again. It was just
okay, let's watch it now.
And you have to wake up. It's time to wake up. You already got the ladder after practicing.
Y'all ain't run to the stop sign.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. And we stretched.
Okay, but y'all gotta do it again because I didn't see it.
For those of you listening, this is a guy who's been woken up, or he's very tired, but
no, he's
the neighborhood dad, and he's promised them a game of American football.
So basically, the strap line is when you know you've married the right man. And obviously what's happened is the neighborhood kids have come round earlier and said, are you playing ball? And he goes, run round the track a couple of times so he could have a bit more time in bed. So then they come and he says, did you run the track? We did. Their faces are shining with joy. And he goes, go on then, do it again. And the way they all go, oh no, but they run round this square in the apartment block again. And though they like mock angry with him, they had the joy, the spring in their step that this grown-up is coming out to play with them. I just thought it was so beautiful.
And I was saying to Nads, there's a moment in the clip, and let me see if I can just find where there's this boy's face of sheer joy as he realizes the guy is look at that boy holding the ball.
Yeah.
the disbelief
And
that
he's
this
a
guy
little bit
is actually
shy.
going to, he's a bit
And he's
shy.
a little bit shy because he doesn't know if it's going to.
And he doesn't want to trust that this is going to happen.
And he's being so good.
Yeah.
He's being really good. He's doing everything right.
And I was just reminded that when I was much younger, when I did my first summer at university, in the summer, I did the after school club at my then girlfriend's mother's primary school. It was near Henley.
Another girlfriend.
And no, but every day. So about 5 or 6 after I'd been doing all these other handy jobs around the village, I would turn up every day of the week to do sort of like summer camp. And I'm not exaggerating. They would all be at the side of the playground going, "It's Mark!" And about 50 to 60 kids we would run out, we'd set up rounders. It was always baseball because I was always an American. I was always into American stuff. They'd run around. They just couldn't believe they had 2 hours with a young guy who was just giving them the attention. There's nothing more meaningful, I think, when you have a young adult, man or woman, giving so much undivided attention to a bunch of youngsters.
You know, it's that saying, it takes a village, doesn't it? But I was thinking, imagine if you're the dad of one of those kids,
there you go.
And you see that video and you see that joy and the almost begging of the children. And he obviously goes out and plays them often, this guy, this hero. And I thought, imagine
it takes a village.
Yeah, imagine if you're the dad of one of those kids and you've never gone out and played ball. How would you feel? It's like time races away. If you didn't play with your child today, make sure you play with your child today, because it is the access point to them. It is the way to really be with their soul. And I regret it. I did play with the girls. I did. And I set myself up there, do these bloody imaginary games like I'm the best. But Mark was amazing with playing with them. And I think, you know, usually play, if you have got a playing parent, it's more often the dad. And I think that's quite a sadness, because you think, oh, this is a point where I can get on with stuff, I can cook stuff.
My theory with all of my girls, my eldest too, was whenever we went to playgrounds, I'd see parents would come in, they'd look at their watch, they'd try and hook them up with other kids to play with, and then they'd say, you know, I would play hard on everything. And then when I knew it was pretty much sensible time to leave, I'd go to myself, another half, I'm going to give them another half hour. So they were always the one going, Dad, can we go home now?
But you know what I love and what makes me sad is that you could still do that today, but you wouldn't. It's as insane as saying we're going to fly to the moon.
What, run around a playground with the girls?
No.
Oh,
to do that kind of thing with the community. Listen to me though, like a village thing.
Yeah, it's
so insane. And the point is say you were to do that now, like you did, or like this guy, right? Those kids, the kids in the area would get an amazing time, but so would you.
ZJK speaks to why it's so difficult. This type of thing was way more common back in the day. Nowadays, there's too many apprehensions from people about this type of thing.
Yeah.
And there are so many, I mean, rightly so, there are many there are rules and reasons for why people need to be monitored as to who's with kids. But it does what you do by making sure that the bad eggs don't get any contact with your kids. You also remove the potential for the good eggs to reach through.
Exactly, and that's wrong.
Balance.
That's wrong.
Yeah.
Those bad eggs will always find a way. But yeah, I mean, this is obviously, it's a community green in the middle of this apartment block. It was just so wholesome. And I think, and then we were talking about you know, what it takes to be a good dad. Didn't have one, but
Sorry, we're having to bounce around with our Wi-Fi. It's just gone a bit funny. Sorry, say that again.
Alison says, Mark, you're a true gentleman, and Nads and the girls are lucky to have you in their
bless
lives.
you. Bless
Take
you.
the compliments.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, so very specific. What does it take? Because that's our question, to be a good dad from a son's point of view. What would you have wanted? Play?
I think well, I think I know what I wanted as a boy, and what I wanted was constant, relentless commitment to long periods of playtime. and imaginative. And so the reason I used to actually play with the girls until exhaustion was I knew this was everything I wanted. I wanted to never think an adult wanted to stop playing with me.
And you know what?
And I wanted my girls to think that I forever wanted to keep playing with them. I wanted the choice to stop to be theirs, not mine.
And you know what, Mark? And I know there are the hard and more barren times for dads as girls are getting into being boyfriends and all the worries about their bodies and all of this. So they lean more into their mums, if they're lucky to have two people. But never underestimate that incredible investment into their souls that you made by that play, and they will always come back to you for play. You're the one that they take the piss out of. You're the one. They are why you are the reason why they have such good friendships with guys, because you've made them feel so at ease with men and with boys. So well done you. But as a son, play. What else does a dad need to be a good dad? Or anybody here? What would you say?
I desperately wanted affection. When my granddad told me to stop kissing him on his head, I went to bed and I cried for weeks. I wanted that. I think a dad needs to not be weird about hugging a boy.
He didn't know
kissing a boy. He literally at 11. He said, "Mark, you're 11 now. No more kisses." I think. And I went to
because
bed
he was
and
doing what he thought was right.
I sobbed uncontrollably, but weirdly in his own way. He obviously knew I was upset because the next day he brought a wet sponge and woke me up with a wet sponge.
Oh,
so,
nice.
Yeah.
James, always lovely to see you, James.
Hi,
Hope you're well. How's your filmmaking going? I don't have a relationship with my dad, only by choice when I turned 19. Wasn't hard, and looking back, just me and my mum, I wouldn't change a thing, and I owe her so much. Wow. So what might you do, James? If you are to become a father, what would you put in? Because I think often when you haven't had a dad, you can get really clear ideas of what kind of dad you want to be, can't you?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, no dad is better than a bad dad.
But don't get me wrong. It doesn't mean that everything goes according to plan.
No.
But you can, as long as your side of the street, I know that what I've wanted to offer all my girls is precisely what I wasn't offered. It's up to what you have to understand then as a dad offering this up. Is you have to just sit back and allow your children to either have it or not have it. They haven't lived your childhood. They haven't not had what you didn't have. So they're not living their life, your kids, going, well, God, dad didn't have that. So this is why they're living their life. And really, sometimes the most selfless thing and unconditional thing you can do as a dad is step back and give them space. Sorry,
Chris White, I love this, Chris, and welcome. I don't think I've ever read one of your comments out before, Chris White. Yes, I give and demand hugs from my teenage boys, usually in front of all their friends.
Oh my God, I love that.
And wow. And I bet they go, get off, Dad. But deep down, they don't want you to get off. I love that. Welcome, Chris. Nice to have another fella here.
Oh, Zoe says, my dad is everything. To me, sadly, same can't be said about my mum.
And Carla, my dad taught me what love is. It's okay, it will go. Jackie Valino, I tell my boys I love them and how proud I am of them. And you are so proud of them. And that's why they've turned out so well, right?
Yeah.
Dawny, my dad, I had brothers and sisters. His childhood was amazing.
Oh.
ZJK, I feel like I hear way more stories from women nowadays about horrible relationships with their mother versus a father. What's going on? I know. I think maybe that's a little bit because the barrier to that, not the barrier, what's the word when you can't say something? When something is, come on, somebody will give me the word. What's the word? When you can't say something about something because it's, but anyway, that has now been knocked away a bit because it was the big, you must never. Taboo. Thank you, darling. You must never. Thank you, Michu. You must. The big taboo is you must never knock your mum. We actually spoke about that on a coffee morning a few weeks ago, and I think some of that has been broken down a bit now. So maybe that's why. Maybe more women are open about the fact that their mum wasn't great. Oh God, we haven't had time for morning sex. We better do it quickly.
There's no surprise there.
Let's cover morning sex.
Morning sex, is it? Well, so tell us what the theory behind this is.
Right, can you get the thing? Mark, it's really hard because you keep looking at the wasp. Do you want to deal with the wasp?
Hang on a minute. If you were afraid of something, I wouldn't tell you to just not feel it.
That's why I'm saying, would you like to deal with
the wasp? No, I can't because we're live.
Do you want to go and spray it?
No,
and I'll carry on talking to people about sex.
Here you go. Sex in the morning. Morning cortisol. Tell us.
Why don't you go and deal with it?
No, I can't, babe. I'll be able
I'm going to find it hard to do sex while your eyes are
I will
everywhere
not be
else.
distracted.
I am playing.
I can't tell if you are.
Of course I am. I'm doing the sex thing.
Oh, okay.
Oh, he's very nervous. Sorry, he's very nervous. Okay. Right. So, stress hormone. Can we bring it down a bit so I can? I get really weird when I can't see anything. I feel like I'm not
What do you
there.
mean? Can't see
Just
what?
reduce it a bit so I can see us. Right. So now everywhere.
Where do you want it? I can't reduce it anymore.
All right. Everywhere on social media, you hear, don't you? I can just see you as long as I can't see me. Cortisol. We have to get rid of cortisol. Cortisol is bad. Cortisol causes belly fat, all of this thing.
Yes.
But also cortisol, of course, is extremely important. It's the stress hormone, cortisol.
Is it flight or fight?
I'm always banging on.
Flight or fight?
Mark
You're always
about
telling me that
this.
my
He's
workouts
not-
are cortisol workouts,
he's
so
not
they're
let-
bad for me.
He's
Is that
not-
right?
He's not letting me hug you. There you go. That's it.
But even
Is
my
that better?
workouts are bad.
No.
Because of the
No,
cortisol,
it's
isn't
not
that
that
right?
your workout's bad. It's just when you're already in a high level of stress and then you go into a high cortisol,
Yeah.
then you're like putting a lot of strain on your body.
Right.
But so, it says here it's had a
Christopher
PR.
Cundall's saying apple crumble in advance.
Yes,
we're
thank you,
we're
Christopher
moving
Cundall,
there. We're
thank
getting
you.
there.
It's a PR crisis apparently with cortisol.
Is it?
Yep.
Yes.
They're trying to convince us that we all need a cortisol detox.
I'm scared of
But this-
cortisol and rice.
Truth, of course, is that it is bad for our health too much.
Yes.
Which is when I nag you. But some of it, of course, is really good for you. And in the morning, it's what gives us the rah, 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 voo, voo,
Is it what gives
oomph.
men a huge erection in the morning?
Yes.
Okay.
That's where it
just so I
comes, the
clear
wood,
that up.
the wood.
The wood.
The testosterone.
Morning glory.
No, actually, the testosterone is higher in the morning. And
Yeah.
that's why everybody suddenly gets a hard on.
Right.
Now, so
Weird, isn't it?
in the early hours of the morning, our cortisol levels rise and then reach a peak and then help us to wake up and give us more energy.
Right.
So for some people, this surge of energy can make the morning an ideal time to have sex.
Stuart's no good until he's had 3 cups of coffee.
Well, at any time of day for your sex life.
Morning.
For some people, this surge can make an ideal time, right? How many of us have spent the day sending flirty texts to our partners, and then it comes to the evening and
And
we're
you're
fucked.
just too tired. Or
And
not
we're
fucked.
just too tired.
You're not
There we
fucked.
go. I've got him back
Yeah,
in the room.
I'm back in the room.
I knew how to get him
I'm
back.
back in the room.
Do you think we should close the door if our neighbours are hearing this?
What do you mean? Everyone's hearing this on YouTube.
Mind you, our neighbour watches it. Hello, neighbour, down
Hi,
the
neighbour.
bottom. So
Has she seen your bottom go up and down?
in the I'm going to call that wasp over to you. I'm going to put some honey on your head.
It's kind of
Right.
a thrill.
In the evening, we have the hormone melatonin, which makes us sleepy and, just all a bit woozy.
I like the way
lovely.
you're inhabiting hormonal
Woozy.
qualities. Cortisol.
Women's specialist says that this might make the evening sex feel more relaxed and nurturing, but other low energy levels reduce the chance of sexual intercourse, especially if you are low on estrogen
Right.
and testosterone.
Okay. What are we learning here?
We're learning that we're all bloody different. Some like it in the morning, some don't.
Is it good to have sex in the morning?
Well, it can be because it can give you that oomph. And also you've got a higher level of testosterone in the morning. So your orgasm, you're
Right, so
likely,
you're what?
you're likely to orgasm more easily. So
Hang
here
on,
it goes.
Hang on. What does hang on? This is the sentence I want to home in on. What does that mean? Easier to orgasm. Do they mean for men or for women or for both?
I think for both. It's because testosterone is dubbed the male hormone, but it's actually essential for women to have an orgasm. They need testosterone. So all these poor women who've had their menopause and are dragging around with their body is not making any testosterone anymore, cannot enjoy sex.
But there's never time in the morning, is there? We're always
Right.
chasing
So this
each other out of the bedroom.
this is what they talk about, and I think that this is interesting. So why it can be good for you in the morning is
Yes.
that it raises your cortisol level, gives you the oomph, can make you feel confident and put an easy spring in your step. And then you feel like, oh my God,
Proving that there is a
I'm cooking on gas. Not only am I running my life fantastically, but I'm having sex with my partner and everything. I'm cooking on gas.
Can I ask a bit of a tricky question?
No.
What
You
about
can write it down and I'll decide whether I'm going to answer it. And then we're going to have a vote. Should I answer his question or not? Yes or no? if you fucking dare, you having a fucking laugh. Stop. Don't even hint at that. So, women, this boost of testosterone in the morning gives them
From the man.
Gives a man a wood. What's it called? A wood.
A wood?
A wooden something.
A morning glory. An erection.
Yeah. But it's like wood compared to maybe later on in the day when their testosterone is dropping.
What type of wood?
Oh, Mark, hardwood.
Balsa?
Not softwood.
Pine? Okay.
So for women, also, this boost of testosterone in the morning could increase arousal.
Ooh.
I don't know many women I've got one friend that will only do it in the morning.
Really? Why is that?
Because she said it's just quicker because they've all got things to do. Otherwise,
Oh my God, it's about getting
there's a
it
bit
done.
of performance. She doesn't want performance.
What, in the evening there's performance?
Yeah, and then she's tired.
What, like strapping on?
She's got a baby. She's got a baby.
Shit like that.
No, she's
Yeah,
got a
I
baby.
get it.
She doesn't want to spend bloody hours.
Yeah.
She just wants to get on with it. So estrogen also and progesterone, all these things are so important. Now,
just set your alarm a bit earlier to have sex.
well, now this is where we go into the people that are different. So morning sex can be powerful.
I know.
Powerful, confidence boosting, mood elevating, stress level reducing, dopamine and oxytocin.
There's
banging.
nothing not to like about this.
Right,
We're finishing
setting-
this live now.
setting-
It's still the morning. Sorry, I just closed that. Sorry.
And this sets you up for a positive day. So that's where it's good for your health, you know?
Well, why are we doing it?
Well, then we move into the facts.
The
If you are
practicalities.
somebody that wakes up with the fear of doom and who is like, you know, immediately
What a journey with
doing
this. Jesus, I was up, now I'm down.
I'm a
up,
storyteller.
down.
That's my thing. I'm a storyteller. And then you've got all your lists that you're wanting to tick off. Then this could actually add stress. This is what this article says. But I would say maybe not. Maybe if you take 4 minutes, to have
Wake up
sex,
5 minutes earlier.
take 4 minutes, then you're going to be ahead of your game.
Hang
You're
on.
going to have more cortisol
Wake up
on your list.
No. Wake up 5 minutes earlier the night before. Put this at the top of your list. You've immediately ticked something off.
Well, exactly. You're ahead of the game.
You're ahead of the game.
DP says, plus you haven't eaten a curry in the morning.
What about
That dates to our
morning
that
breath?
you haven't eaten a curry in the morning. Clever, because that's our podcast,
Yes, of course.
isn't it?
But someone has said that the article does say rather amusingly, I wake up with pigeon breath. I don't know what pigeon breath is myself.
Doesn't
but,
sound nice.
Doesn't sound nice at all. I mean, there is that detail where everyone doesn't feel they look their best first thing in the morning, do they?
Well,
People
also,
feel bright light coming
if
in.
your
you haven't got blinds
cortisol
up.
levels really are too high, the thought of squeezing in a morning sex sesh may do nothing more than actually overwhelm you.
Yes, stress you out. Yeah.
So,
I mean, I could imagine actually that if you've only got a very limited amount of time, that would put a lot of stress on men to perform. So this idea that it would be easier to orgasm, not necessarily if you know there's
saying
a queue,
orgasm so loudly.
if there's a queue for the bathroom, for the shower, if you're worried about when people are going to wake up, or you've set the alarm, you've only got 5 minutes, you know.
So also there is the question, what if you have different times a day? A friend of mine,
YouTube says afternoon
her
delights are better.
husband was just an absolute morning person, right? And she said she did fancy him and everything, but she said in the morning I feel totally numb.
Why?
Just numb physically.
Oh.
I think it's probably
thing.
because you've got the kids are going to come in, so your body actually shuts down.
So she wakes in a
So-
state of trauma.
So then if you're what about there's somebody else we know. Oh my God.
Oh,
we're not going to say what it is.
No,
But
that's
every
not-
single morning they have to
Well,
do
you
it.
see, my worry is that, and we've talked about this a lot on our marriage podcast, actually. It's the fine line between it just happening and a sense of obligation and scheduling it in. Because if you wake up and you don't feel up to it, the last thing I can well imagine many people in partnerships would think is, oh God, do I have to do it now? Otherwise he's going to be in a mood with me.
But also the other thing you can do is you can say, listen, I don't necessarily want, I'm not somebody that has an orgasm in the morning. You can
You never
say
talk
that.
this quiet in the
But
morning.
you can have an orgasm. But
Can I?
can we not spend an hour trying to give me one because I haven't got time? You know, you can have those conversations.
Can we?
Not us, you don't know.
I'd quite like to, though. I find you know what? I'm a really easy date. I'm going to be brutally honest with you. I get my kicks off just talking about it. Don't need to do it. It's great. We just had a chat. I'm happy. I'm set for the day. I'm going to make coffee. My cortisol's going fucking nuts.
It's a way to
And
get
I'm
a cup of tea, isn't
testosterone's
it?
going bing, 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 bing.
It's the way. It's true because like usually when men do have sex, then they're like much nicer in the morning.
I'll make you a cup of tea
They're
every
in a
day.
bit. Mark, I'm not
in the
talking about
morning.
you.
I stir your tea with my morning glory.
Right, listen, we've been on nearly an
Hot.
hour and we have a podcast to
Yes.
do, and it's a beautiful
All
day.
right, let's crack off. Let's crack on.
So first of all, guys, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, and have a little think about joining our members area. We do every Sunday. We do either a live or a recorded program. We do.
It's carnage this weekend just gone. Jesus. Creatoholic's birthday as well.
We did a little vlog, and then and then Dina and I do the Curly Cooks cook along once a month, and lots of bits and pieces on our members area. There's loads of content here though. If you don't want to join the members area, that's always free. So if you've joined the channel for the first time, 10 o'clock every morning here, and then have a look around because we've got gardening, movie reviews, TV reviews, got the whole lot.
Everyone is asking, what did I write?
Well, guess what? You will never know.
Can I hold it up?
If you do this, right? I'm not doing the podcast today. I'm not here today. I'm leaving. And I'm checking into a hotel.
Can we have sex first?
If you show that card, honest to God, Mark, I'm not joking.
Okay, I'm just going to read
If
out
you
the birthday.
ever say that, you don't need to read it out. We know it's Creatoholic. So, and please don't mess up Creatoholic's birthday.
I'm not going to.
Everybody join us. Everyone sing wherever you are. Come on, get your vocals going. 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Creatoholic. Happy birthday to you. And thank you for being such a lovely member of our community, Creatoholic.
Yes.
You are always just so bright and just, you know,
Breezy.
bright and breezy, and a real creator. So have the most beautiful day. You deserve it. And thank you again. If you suddenly get a membership today, just say a big thank you to Creatoholic. And maybe you got some from Christopher Cundall the other day. So
Or
a big
Julie
thank
the
you.
singing nutcase.
Or
whose
Julie the singing-
cramps are a lot better.
Bizarre.
Okay, guys, have a lovely day. Something else will be landing later today.